ultimate goal of farming is not the growing of crops, but the cultivation and perfection of human beings. Japanese farmer, philosopher and environmentalist Masanobu Fukuoka agrees with many other great thinkers that agriculture is much more to humanity than crop production, and that agriculture does not only contribute most to real wealth, but also to good morals and happiness. Many agree that Nigeria's current economic difficulties are direct consequences of the neglect of agriculture. Some even dare to say that this neglect is also responsible for the growing social ills in the country. For them, crop production instills love, care, and patience, values that seem lacking in a society today. However, the great majority of Nigerian farmers have remained faithful to the values of crop production against all odds. Women farmers, who make up at least half of the country's agricultural workforce, are a shining example in this regard. The challenges confronting women in agriculture in Nigeria are many. They range from poor access to production resources such as credit, land, labor and inputs, as well as insecurity, which has worsened in recent times. Despite these obstacles, women farmers in Nigeria are forging ahead through sheer determination with help from some non-profit organizations. On Farmers Market this week, we focus on the challenges confronting women in agriculture and how they are surmounting them to get better crop yield. Farmers Market is designed to stimulate a change of attitude towards agriculture. It promotes Nigeria's agricultural prowess, celebrates its successes, identifies the challenges besetting the sector, and advocates policies and programs that will help grow Nigeria's agro-economy. Varieties of highly nutritious rice in Abakaliki, Ofada, Kano, yet Nigeria wastes billions on rice importation.
Cocoa in the southwest, and yet top dollar is spent on imported chocolate and beverages.
Fruits rot in Benue, Nasarawa, Kogi, yet imported juice line the shops.
82 million hectares of rich arable land, yet no jobs, and food insecurity threatens.
Real wealth is in farming, livestock, hatcheries, fisheries, horticulture, and forestry.
It's time to act different.
Time to bring Nigerian farmers to the markets.
Farmers Market, growing Nigeria's agro-economy.
Showing every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. and Thursdays at 9:30 a.m. on AIT.
There's often a disagreement between policymakers and non-governmental organizations about the number of women in agricultural labor force across the world. Governments often say it is between 60 and 80%, but the World Bank puts the figures at between 40 and 50%. In Nigeria, the figures are between 37% in the north and up to 51% in the south, as against government figures of 70%, according to the Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO. However, this debate does not diminish the critical contribution of women to food security and economic diversification through agriculture in the country. Despite the fact that women make up nearly half of the country's farming population, research shows that they are less productive than men. At least 13% less productive, according to the World Bank. The reasons range from economic to cultural and social challenges. One of the biggest challenges confronting agriculture in Nigeria is lack of credit to improve farmers' access to land, quality seeds, and other agricultural inputs. There have been many direct interventions by successive governments since the 1970s to improve agricultural financing and rural development as a way of boosting crop production. But credit is still regarded as the greatest limiting factor to the development of agriculture in Nigeria, not to talk of its ripple effect on the eradication of extreme poverty and hunger.
Yes, I shall 10,000. First count it together. 20,000.
Farmers, especially women in rural areas, have had to find their own way, sometimes by forming cooperatives and saving whatever they can. Some of them organized into groups with the help of international non-governmental organizations. Banks and other financial institutions have not helped much because of the obstacles farmers have to scale to access credit.
It is virtually impossible to just walk into the bank and raise a loan, say borrow me money, or I want to borrow money for 1 year or 2 years. It is practically impossible. I mean, we are Nigerians, we are in Nigeria. And if you are told that come, we will give you money, but when you get to the desk of the banker, then you know that you have an uphill task to climb.
It's a very difficult issue because unfortunately agriculture has also still got that developmental side to it. If you're going to start a business, if you want to start a business, how do you go about starting a business? You go about starting a business finding the most viable rate to invest in what you're going to do. Because our banks are not involved in banking, it is difficult to say go to a commercial bank because those guys don't have the patience or the investment for anything. So one has to concede that federal government's injection to National Bank of Agri, Industry and all of that helps. But that doesn't solve the problem. There has to be the kinds of macroeconomic conditions that makes it impossible for a bank to survive by raising interest rate at the level that they put it. There has to be viable conditions that makes people to properly bank rather than be round tripping and making money out of the dollar. Until that happens, everything that government does is going to be targeting a few people. And once you target a few people and they get the benefit, it distorts.
Access to land and farm inputs like quality seeds and fertilizer are some of the other challenges. But many women have learned to overcome these by forming cooperatives. The advantage is that they are able to pool their resources and share risks and liabilities. They are also able to attract cheaper input, while their numbers give them a voice to attract the attention of government and non-profit organizations working to improve crop production and women's participation in agriculture.
We have had this gap training, that is good agricultural practices. And this gap training, we look at 3 major crops in which Kaduna State have comparative advantage. This includes maize, rice, and ginger. Our extension agents were trained on land preparation, application of fertilizer, use of herbicides and other chemicals that will enhance high yield. And this training has been stepped down to our extension agents at the zonal office levels.
A 3.5 hectare field of maize owned by one of the women groups in Kaduna, North Central Nigeria.
This is the farm that Jimmy Carter visits us.
The Golden Gora Women Cooperative Society, led by Veronica Turaki.
It's around 18,590.
19,005. 95. Yes, 19.5. 95. Yes,
It is not quite due for harvest yet, but the women are already getting advances from off-takers.
There's no problem. I'm even in the farm now with some people. There's no problem. As long as you are ready, you're welcome. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
It's a lush green field, remarkably different from those around it, even though, as the farmers say, they were planted about the same time. There is no gainsaying the fact that the yield from this maize field will be better than those around it, and the trick is just better agronomic practices learned by the 25-member women cooperative from different non-governmental organizations, especially synagogues.
We like farm because we are born in the farm. Our father taught us how to farm, but this one is modern technology from this organization, so we grab it because it gives us less stress. Because if we, like before, we use our leg to put the seed and cover. All this one, maybe in the process of putting your leg, put the hole and put the seed, I may get something that will choke my leg and I will have problem. But their own technology, they make us to get this stick. This is 25 centimeters. When they make ridges, we can't climb the ridges, but from the edge of the ridges, you put your seed and measure 25 centimeters, one seed per one hole. This is how we used to do. This hand, your left hand will be putting the seed. Then we cover. This is how we used to start. After 7 days, by planting, we do our application of the fertilizer. We come to the spaces from 25 to 25 centimeters. We get our stick, like from my leg to here, that I can hold it well. The stick that is more than this, the tick to more than this. Then I will stand and put a hole at the center. If I reach, I'll come back, carry my fertilizer. Before I'll apply my fertilizer, I have to get the cover of like Coca-Cola, put there, shake, put inside my hand, shake, put. How many cups or cover that my hand can close it well, that it will not fall down. Then if it is 5, my hand can hold, that is, I'll put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because hands, they are bigger, some will contain 7, some 6, some 4. So when we apply finish, we will come back and be covering the fertilizer. This is how I use in this farm.
Veronica, now a grandmother, has been a farmer all her life. Even she had to be weaned from the ancient methods of crop production.
The small farm that I did, these people that they will use the old technology, they will not get the yield that I get in this, because we try it, we see it, we harvest it, we know what we are getting. From the first day, we learn to farm and feed ourselves, feed our children. But from there is different now. We have passed that level. Farm now is for business for women. Like my group, it's a business. You had my secretary giving, somebody is asking, sometimes they will call us. Some organization, they will call us. How much price? Because Senegal and some organization like yourself, they taught us how to plan, how to farm, how to do anything of farming so that we become great farmer.
It's a good time to grow maize. The grain used for the production of animal feed is in very high demand, and the women cannot be more grateful that they have learned how to get better yield.
Our objective here is to raise productivity across players in agriculture, generate wealth and employment. So agencies like synagogues, NGOs like USAID, German International Association, GIZ, and the like. We are collaborating with them. And we also discovered that the more you collaborate, the more strengthened you are. Because each will bring wealth, not money, knowledge, skills, approaches. And we tap across this and we apply during our own normal local programs.
The women of the Golden Gora Cooperative are passing down the knowledge they've acquired. At least 200 other women have been trained in proper planting, fertilizer application, and other farming techniques. They even provide those services to large cooperative farms like this one in Kaduna, where they are planting thousands of hectares of soya beans. Another group of young women, they too grow maize, yam and other crops. They belong to a much younger cooperative and they are excited about the benefits of pooling resources to tackle the challenges of farm labor and inputs, especially that of fertilizer.
Access to fertilizer is kind of better because when you go to these fertilizer companies and you say you are doing it for a cooperative, you have better chances of getting the fertilizers in time than those who go for individual purpose. We generate monies for farm from the levies we make, from our levies. That's how we rented this place, we planted, and most times we work on the land, on the farms. We plant the crops ourselves to reduce costs, and then we apply the fertilizers. The only work other people do, they plow the place for us. After they do the ridges, we come, we plant, and then we spray and then apply fertilizers ourselves.
They too have learned from Senegals how to plant and apply fertilizer, and they show those who work for them.
Hard as they try, the challenges of women in agriculture in Nigeria further compounded by a recent one, that of insecurity. Dorcas here, for instance, is just returning to her farm for the first time after an ordeal in the hands of kidnappers.
A tractor was here plowing the farm. Then I was tired, so I laid down under that tree, that big tree down there. So we saw some children running across here. So we thought they were just playing. So my brother was here with me. He now said, why are those children running? Only for us to turn and see men coming with guns. There were like 10 of them coming with guns. So at first we thought they were policemen because they were wearing black. Then later we realized they were not policemen when they started shooting. So we started running. I couldn't run as fast as the men, so they caught me. And then they took me away. I was with them for 3 days until the ransom was paid, then they released me.
Kidnap for ransom had become so common, especially along the Kaduna-Abuja highway, where her farm is located, that the federal government had to intervene by ordering the deployment of hundreds of special police operatives along the route. Defenseless women like Dorcas, whose farms are a long way off the road, were worse hit by the activities of the rampaging kidnappers.
The situation they met us was a chaotic, uncertain to the extent that when you drive from home to the office, you may not likely have that confidence that you will get back home as safe as you may think. Because you had instances of explosive device exploding on the road. This was the level we were. But when this government came, they did as much as they could, of course with the support from the federal government, to address some of these key security challenges. Now this, a criminal has several ways of perpetrating his acts. Now the major problem we are facing has been now kidnapped. And I'm telling you, if you compare the level of reports on kidnap from last year to this year, it has drastically reduced.
Nigeria is just beginning to relearn the importance of agriculture to national development, and the emphasis has been on increasing production, especially of staples like maize, cassava, and yam. The challenge now is how to ensure agricultural development that puts nutritionally rich foods, dietary diversity, and food fortification at the heart of food security.
There's a national strategy. For the first time, we have a national strategy for food security, food nutrition. There's a recognition, but we are at a very early stage of this. Let's be honest. The hope is that the awareness is going to increase. But I can tell you that you can be hungry having eaten, because if the nutrients and the vitamins are not there, it's an impossible situation. The same thing, there's an opportunity for us with the school feeding program to make sure that the food that is available is nutritious. I can't tell you that we're at the stage where we can say proudly that this is taken up by everybody. No, it's not true. But what we're doing in our own states is that we're targeting women, because women are more liable to listen to us and take this on. The men are more liable to say, well, we sell the best food, and this is how I grew up. There's no need for me to do anything else. We'll be all right. We're children of farmers. Do you understand what I mean? So we're connecting the dots for them, and that's where we're starting. Please don't be irritated by the humble beginnings. But that humble beginning is what we are going to have to build on to get to where you and I want us to be, whereby the first health step is what you eat.
Even government agencies responsible for agricultural development are just beginning to get used to the concept of nutrition-sensitive agriculture.
Of course, we have a lot of capacity building on the production, and we are really doing well there. We have large yield, we have good yield at the end of every harvest. But the problem is we have less of interventions, especially concerning nutrition. We have less of demonstrations on how it can be processed properly, so that the body can utilize it very well to combat malnutrition and to improve living standards. We have that gap there. So we are equally calling on government, and especially synagogues as they are coming in. We want to have more of the demonstration, how these our crops, we can add value to these our crops so that it can be of great importance to our body and even to linkages to markets and so on and so forth.
This is a challenge that the international non-governmental organizations like synagogues have taken up in Nigeria. One that we will be taking up shortly in a subsequent edition of Farmers Market. That's Farmers Market for this week. For feedback and sponsorship considerations, email us on info@farmersmarketng.com. Follow us on Twitter @farmersmarketng. And like our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/farmersmarketng. Farmers Market returns same time, same station next week. Thanks for watching.